How are you? First of all, can you hear me okay? So if you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay, I can see the chat. I'm doing things a little bit differently this evening. Hi, Ronnie. Hi, Bridget. Okay, can you hear me okay? Okay, Bridget. Perfect. That's amazing. Hi, David and Wendy. How are you? Hi, Annette. How are you? Annette Goes Adventures. Hi there. So I'm using a brand new system this evening. I've not used it before, so this is going to be really interesting. So that I can bring this live on YouTube. So hopefully we can get a few more bums on seats. Um, the tour tonight is going to be all about Medinat Habu, one of my favourite temples in Egypt, as you all know, steeped in so much history, and also it's just a beautiful temple as well. I've been really lucky and I've managed to get some brand new video taken for me, which I have posted on my YouTube channel. I know, Melissa, it's been a long time. It's lovely to see you again too. I've got so many things planned over the next few months. I really have. Spread across two channels actually, so it won't just be the Blue Lotus, but you can come on UK and other country adventures with the Adventures with Gin, because if you're going to go out, you may as well have a gin at the end of it. Always a nice thing to do. It's your first YouTube live, Bridget. Well, I'm glad I could get you on board with this. It's so much easier, I think, too, for you guys anyway. Been a bit of a headache for me, but it is a lot easier for you guys. This is a totally free tour for you to jump on, but if you would like to buy me a coffee at the end, please do. I have left the buy me a coffee link is just there for you now. So if you'd like to buy me a coffee, just what it does, it just helps me be able to spend more time bringing different tours to you. So this week, as you know, we have the temples of Egypt. Next week we have the pyramids of Giza, and I've got some new information there too. And also too, I'm going to be doing a cooking program for you on Friday. It'll be the last Friday of every month. I will bring Egyptian cooking to you also. With the Adventures with Gin, we've got some really exciting things coming up. So I've got some National Trust sites lined up for you. I also have a really exciting trip to Meyerhofen in Austria. So I'll be taking you up the mountains there, and also taking you around the town of Meyerhofen as well. So lots of shenanigans is inbound. So without further ado, let's get on to the reason for this tour tonight, which is Medinat Habu. Now, so before we get started, a little bit of background on Habu. Now, I can see the chat, so if you do have any questions, do ask away, and I will do my best to answer anything that you have for me there, okay? I'm excited to have you here, Melissa, too. So nice to have you. Hi, Kelly. So, Medinat Habu is one of the most impressive temples, I have to say, in Egypt. It is both a temple complex and a complex of temples, if you can understand what that means. A little bit of a difficult one to explain, but as we go around, we'll be able to see exactly what we're looking at, so I'll be able to explain a little bit better to you. So hopefully you'll be able to keep up and understand. But as I said, if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, please do ask away, and I will answer as many as possible. If you are watching this on repeat, hopefully you'll be able to see the chat, and you can catch up with me at a later date on the Buy Me a Coffee or the live streaming events. So if you'd like to put any links in the chat where you can find me, please do, and hopefully we'll be able to follow me there too. So the main temple is one of the best preserved of all the temples in Thebes. Now, Thebes is what we call ancient Luxor. Okay, so Luxor is 3/4 of the way down the River Nile, or in Upper Egypt, as we like to call it. Now, that's a little bit confusing, I know. Upper and Lower Egypt, what does that mean? So everything at the top end of the River Nile, because the River Nile actually flows from south to north, so it's very, very different. It flows differently to most rivers. So what we call Upper Egypt is the south end of the River Nile, so that's Upper Egypt, and Lower Egypt is the north end, so because the water's flowing from south to north. So when we call Luxor or Thebes Upper Egypt, what we mean is the top end of the River Nile as it flows through Egypt. So this is where Medinat Habu is actually situated. So it's situated in Upper Egypt, on the west bank of the River Nile, in Thebes. Okay, so it's just out into the desert area there. Beautiful, beautiful temple. So let's just have a look at what we've got here. So here we can see, can you see my mouse? I'm not sure if you can see a mouse there or not. Hopefully you can, probably not. So this building that we have here, this is the entrance. So this is where you start. You come in through the ticket office, and you get your ticket stamped as you go in, or torn, and you come into this amazing bit here, which I have always thought is quite impressive and very, very different from most other temples that you will ever see in Egypt. Actually, it's called the High Gate, and it was also the main entrance coming into the temple. Now, if you can imagine this, there would have been a quayside. So it would have been that the River Nile would have flowed into canals or channels, and then they would have gone to little quays outside the temples themselves. So this was a way of, being able to get to the temples, easy access to the temples, especially for Pharaoh and all his entourage, to be able to go to these temples quite easily. And also, when they had the festivals, they could take the statues of the gods to each of the temples, because we did have the festivals during ancient times, which meant that we could actually sail all of these statues up to the front door of the temple, so they didn't have far to go. So Medinat Habu was no different to this. So this was actually the beginning, or the gateway, if you like, into the temple. Now, it was called, it was actually designed on the Western Asiatic model of fortress. Now, it is very different to anything you'll see. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through. We can have a look. So here we go. So on this, now this was actually based on, as I said, on a design of an Asiatic fortress. But it is covered in reliefs of the pharaoh, and hi Diane, I'm glad to be touring again too. And also, it was part of the harem. So this is where they would come for festivals. This is where the harem would be situated. They'd be in this building. It would have been a lot bigger back in ancient times. Oh, this is a beautiful statue of Sekhmet. Everybody knows that my favourite goddess is Sekhmet. She is a wonderful, wonderful goddess for many different reasons. But all over the walls here, you will see depictions of Pharaoh with younger women. You'll have to excuse, my son did actually take a video of his feet during trying to get this. He had no idea what he was doing, bless him. So he's done his best, but he's done a good job. And also you'll notice on these carvings on the walls here, they're very, very deep inset into the walls. It's like Ramses III didn't want anybody to steal his thunder or steal his temple. Now, Ramses III was actually, there's a lot of mystery, well, I say mystery, but intrigue around his reign, but we'll get into that a little bit further into the tour for you, okay? So, as I said, this is the gateway, the entrance coming from the quayside into the main temple, and this is called the High Gate. So it's fronted by two guard houses as well, side by side with the gateway, which was actually behind us. We couldn't actually see those, unfortunately. And it's decorated with images of the king, also trampling the enemies of Egypt from the outside. So it's already an impressive structure in that way. And these are all projected all over the walls. And as I said, up in the top, you do have the harem there as well. So the harem is actually where it is said, as you can see, on this one here, you can actually see here that the king has got the enemies by the hair. Are the Sekhmet statues still in their original place? No, I don't believe they are, Melissa. So we are coming now into the courtyard, or the first courtyard of the temple. Now, as I said, before we go on, so we have the harem, okay? Why is the harem so interesting to me. Now, I've loved this story for quite some time, mainly because it's called the Harem Conspiracy. What do I mean by that? It means that there was a murder plot to kill Ramses III during his reign, for whatever reason. Well, we'll get into that a little bit later on in the tour. But also to, this is where we do believe he was actually assassinated, was upstairs in that harem. Now, interestingly, I've not managed to find anybody who's been in that harem building for quite some time. They say there's not much to see up there, but I think just for the atmosphere, for the feel of the place, it would be amazing to be able to go up. And all that separates me from going into that building is the tiniest of little wooden doors that I still, after all this time, I still haven't managed to get through. But maybe one day. One day we'll get there. So first of all, we are going to go out, I believe we're going to go out to the left of the temple. Again, the right of the temple. So as you come through the gateway to the right, and we're going to go round possibly one of the oldest parts of Medinat Habu temple. Actually, this is called the small temple, not this particular part. This would have been part of it. Sorry for the feet. So this is and also too, it sort of like goes from the oldest part into the newest part of the temple as well. So this was actually created in the 18th dynasty, this particular part. Now, what I should say, let's stop there for a second. This site was actually seen as being what a great archaeological significance and also religious significance back in ancient times, because they believed this was where the birth of the first gods was, or the first gods were created. So they're called the Onmidod. Okay, so they were created possibly within here, around the sacred lake. So this particular temple was very, very important for that and very sacred. So we have buildings going back to the 18th dynasty, so starting with Hatshepsut, Tutmosis I, Tutmosis II and III, and they all ended up building on to this amazing temple over time. We don't actually know where the name Medinat Habu came from. Because that isn't its original name anyway. That's a name that came to it later on. So we're not quite sure where that came from. Some people speculate that it might have something to do with a temple that was literally not too far away to the south of this particular temple, which was for Ammonophis, son of Hapu. Okay, so this is what they think. Possibly it has some related connections with, but that's never been confirmed over the years, so it's not been confirmed. But what we do know is it was actually called, I've got to try and find all my notes on this, we'll get to that in a minute, we'll come back to that in a minute, but the name of it was actually related to, later on, to the name of Ramses III. Okay, so let's go on through here. Now you'll see we've got some modernish pillars there, and then we have this amazing, again, another pylon there, and this was actually created later on. It was created, well, basically, as I said, the temple was rebuilt on quite a few times by other people. Okay, so we start from the 18th dynasty and then we go through. The biggest part of the temple is from the 19th, 20th dynasty, which is Ramses III. But also, too, we have pharaohs from the 25th and 26th dynasty. They're actually adding, or actually up to the 29th dynasty, adding on to this. So this part here that you're seeing now, this other gateway was actually built, I believe, by Taharqa. So he was the nephew of Shabaka, which were Nubian kings, actually. So the Nubian kings actually came into Medinat Habu, and they actually put their own entrances on here as well. So this is from the 26th to the 29th century dynasty. Okay, because as we know, over time, these temples were usurped quite a lot by different pharaohs over the time. And the last one to actually put his stamp on here in the 29th dynasty is Nectanebo I. Now, Nectanebo, if you've been to Luxor Temple, you will have seen the Sphinx's Avenue, which actually have the face of Nectanebo on them. So the colonnades, you can see some of these pillars that we do see as we go through the temple. They are actually from the Ptolemaic period, which is the Greek period, the period that Cleopatra was from, and they had colonnades going up there as well. So some of these blocks that you're seeing here were actually taken from the Ramses temple within Medinat Habu, and then they were repurposed. Did the Nubian kings worship the same gods? Yes, they did. When they were in Egypt, they seemed to. Yes, I don't know a lot about the Nubian kings because it comes at a later period, and as you know, my speciality is between the 18th and 19th dynasties, so it's a little bit different. So this is the other side a bit more. This is the Hatshepsut part here. So this doorway goes into the oldest part. Now, unfortunately, there's a little bit remains of Hatshepsut's cartouches on the inside, but most of it was gotten rid of. As we know, Hatshepsut was erased from history for whatever reason. Hopefully you won't buy into the Tutmosis III theory. Maybe one day I'll do another tour on that, which is my theories on Hatshepsut and Tutmosis III. But as you can see, we have them all in the guise of Amun, and you've got Ptah there as well, of this little temple within the temple. So as I said, this goes back to the 18th dynasty, this particular one. But what we are going to do in a moment is we are going to go over to the Chapel of the Divine now I'm going to say this wrong because I'm terrible at this. Adoratresses. Very, very difficult for me to say on a Wednesday evening. But these were actually Libyan priestesses of all. Oh, this is the front. So this is the main part of the temple here. So you can see actually on here. So if we have a quick look before we get to that next bit, we have Ramses standing in front of the god Amun, and he's there with his raised arm up. He's holding onto the hair of the enemy. And the one thing about this temple that we do have is we have depictions of victories of for the sea people and for the of Libya, the Libyan people as well. So it's about the victories that Ramses supposedly managed to do during his reign. You'll see those lovely little really nice cut pieces within the wall there. You've got two each side on the north and south pylons, okay? They were actually for flagpoles, so we'd have the flagpoles in there, and you can see the holes at the top that would have secured the flags at the top. So those were to fly the flags, if you like, or the standards of the temple as well. Not only that, you'll notice when you look, and if you see pictures, if you go away and have a look at pictures of Medinat Habu later on, you'll see that the king has a different crown on. So in this side, on the north side, this is the south side, he has the crown of Upper Egypt, and on the north side he has the crown of Lower Egypt. Okay, so the white and red crowns, and this is believed that this is to show that during Ramses III's reign he had peace between Upper and Lower Egypt. When did they start painting the hieroglyphics? This would have been painted from the very beginning, okay? So because of times gone by, when we go into the temple we will see some of the original colour, and you've got to imagine that this was actually full of colour back in those days as well. So now this is the Chapel of the Divine Adoratresses. So this building consisted of several mortuary temples. So there's several mortuary chapels, in here. It was created between the 25th and 26th dynasties for the Divine Adoratresses of Amun, who ruled Upper Egypt at the time on behalf of the king, because obviously he couldn't be everywhere at once. They were actually supposed to be Libyan priestesses as well, which is quite interesting actually. Now, there are hidden crypts beneath the temple, so that's where they believe that their tombs were. Unfortunately, they were empty. Now, over the last 3 years, they have actually moved and taken down and rebuilt the chapels here because they were subsiding. So they've done an awful lot of work here on the temple as well. Now, what you won't be able to see, unfortunately, because we are a little bit too far away, is on the lintels on the lintels of this, we have of the entrances to those chapels, you can see the appeal to the living, which encouraged passers-by and visitors to pronounce offerings for and prayers to the spirits of the divine adontresses as well. And in there, you can see that little granite thing in the middle there, just before the doorway. That's actually an offering table. Hi, Judith. No, not late. Don't worry. So you can see the priestesses on the wall here with the god Amun. It's always really interesting to see all these. And you can see that the way the hieroglyphics have changed as well. The hieroglyphics change from dynasty to dynasty. So I always find that the 18th dynasty hieroglyphics are a lot more depictive, a lot more descriptive than the ones that come a bit later on. But as you can see here, there are a lot of little chapels within this particular temple complex as well, which I actually think is amazing. There's still lots of work being done here, but they are making sure that it's more stable because it was collapsing. So this is now the main part of the temple, and if we go back just a little bit, see if I can get us back a little bit here, I can show you if I can stop it in time. Bear with me. Oh, we're going back inside again, sorry. Missed the beginning. Oh no, not shenanigans, Nikki. Oh no, not the shenanigans. They seem to follow me everywhere I go. I'm not quite sure why. Okay, so here I was saying. Hold on, Paul, I'll answer your question in a second. I was saying, so if you look at this wall here, so if you looked at this wall and then we have a look at the other side. So this is the north side or the lower side, and the other one is the upper side. So the north side, you can see he's still standing with that aggressive stance where he's going to smite someone. He's going to start smiting. We all like a bit of smiting, don't we? And then he's got the head or the hair of his victims, if you like, or the prisoners in him, and he's crushing them underfoot. So you have Lower Egypt, the lower crown of Lower Egypt, the crown of Lower Egypt, and then on the other side you have the crown of Upper Egypt, which is on the other side. So this is what we mean by duality. I'll just spell it for you because I can't read these days at all. And I was supposed to. Hold on, bear with me. There you go. So that's what the chapel's called. That's what it is. Not adulteresses. You'll see. But they were priestesses, and they did have an awful lot of power back then. So this is the main entrance, Now, this was built by Ramses III. He had a massive building spurt during his reign. So everywhere in Luxor you go, there are lots and lots and lots of buildings that he's built, and they're really, really they're magnificent. They are magnificent. But I do believe within that time, because he was building so much, he was actually bankrupting his country. And I think this was the precursor to why, in the end, they ended up having to get rid of him, because he was bringing the country to its knees. But we'll get into that story a little bit in a moment. But as you can see, look at the hieroglyphics here. So the Khartouche. So the Khartouche is the circular, the semicircular writing there, and then you've got the letters on the inside of that semicircle. That's a Khartouche, which is the name of the king. Okay, and then you've got the Ankh, which is the key of life, with the hands either side, and this is like sort of like the chanting going into that, through that doorway into the first part of that complex. Okay, so now I don't mind telling you, I'm sure I've got a photo of this somewhere, that these hieroglyphics are dug so deep into the stone, you can put your whole fist in there and it disappears on the inside. Because one thing that was quite commonplace back in ancient Egyptian times is, if you got a pharaoh, he hadn't got a lot, he wanted to put his name out there, he wanted to get he wanted to make sure that he was known forever, and he had more temples, because the more temples and more tombs or more structures that you had, more statues, the more you would say their name. The more you said their name, the more they were going to stay in the afterlife. So it was really, really important, actually, that we would speak the name of the pharaoh. So you can understand why they would get a little bit of building fever going on, because they didn't want to be forgotten once they'd passed away. Now, I think Ramses III was no exception to this rule, but he also came after Ramses II, who was notorious for taking other people's stuff. So he was always nicking things. So statues, temples, you name it, Ramses II would take it. So I think Ramses III has taken a leaf out of Ramses II's book and gone, you know what, I'm not having the same thing happen to my things. I'm going to make sure that nobody's going to want to take it, because they're not going to be able to. Why are they not going to be able to? Because I'm going to make my hieroglyphics, or the writing on these temples, the temples, so deep that, you know, if they were to try and cut it away to put their own name on it or fill it in, it would look wrong, number one, and number two, the stone would disappear. They'd have no stone left. So I can see what he's done. It's very, very clever. So this is what he's done, and you can see in the ceiling you have the goddess Nekhbet. Nekhbet was the goddess of Upper Egypt, or was a goddess of Upper Egypt, and she is always depicted on the ceilings of these temples, which I absolutely love. Beautiful. And you're starting to see some of that original colour now as well. Oh, excuse my nose. So you've got the king here being in front of some of the gods there, and it's just incredible. Look how deep those hieroglyphics actually are. So the main temple is called the Temple of Usamatra Meri Amun, or the throne name of which, but the first bit is the throne name of Ramses III, and it means united with eternity in the possession of Amun in the west of Thebes. Okay, so here is really interesting. You've got this beautiful, beautiful colonnade here, and halfway up this colonnade, actually, you have a window. Okay, so let me just get to that bit. So it was the window of appearances, in which the king would stand or sit during formal ceremonies and festivals. Okay, so that was what that wall was. Now, he didn't have to go very far from his palace, because his palace, where he would stay when he was there, was just behind. So just behind that wall is a palace. So all he'd have to do is walk from one of his rooms into where to the side of the temple, show his face, go, hi guys, here I am, and be there, sit there for the festivities, and then he could go back to his house again. So he didn't have far to go to work every day. So I think that's pretty good. And then over on the other side, we have the Osiris statues, which is absolutely incredible. Now, if you go to Karnak Temple, there is an absolute replica of this side, but they're more complete, of these are Osiris statues. Okay, so this is on the northern wall, actually, on the side of the court. It's the colonnade. It's called the colonnade of Osiris statues, and on the south side, as I said, was the colonnade of the portico with the window of appearance. Now, this particular part of the temple is quite important, because we have these walls here. Okay. You can also see the harem through there. So on this side, you can just about see it. You have Pharaoh on his chariot, and he's crushing his enemies, right? So he's crushing his enemies there, telling you how big he is and how amazing he is. But on the other side, we have something a little bit different. Now, you're going to have to Google this, I'm afraid, because the picture quality, I think my son was a little bit embarrassed when I asked him to do this for me. Okay, because if you're a soldier and you wanted to get paid, you would take the hands of your enemies. You'd cut the enemy's hands off, and you would take them, and then you get paid. But there was a bit of a flaw in this plan for the treasury, because generally 99.9% of the time people have two hands. So in effect, the soldiers were actually getting paid twice for doing one kill. So instead of allowing that to happen, I would say the treasurers actually came up with another plan. It was mainly men that were doing all the fighting, so they would ask them to chop the phalluses off their enemies and take the phallus to get payment. Okay, so on this particular wall that we have here, I don't know if I can't remember. I think I might have done a picture of it or put a picture of it somewhere later on in the video. But you'll see a pile of hands, and then you have a pile of phalluses. Some of them they did, but mostly it was art. It was like painted. The palaces were, most of the time they were made out of mud brick, and then they would have like white plaster on the walls, and then those were painted in spectacular colours. They would spend their money on their houses of eternity, which were their temples. Paula. So this was what this colonnade was, and this was all about just for the ceremonies. So the general public who would be invited to the temples, this would be about as far as they'd be allowed to go inside before it became sacred and the Holy of Holies. And you'll see in here we do have some blackening in the ceiling. That's because later on in history these temples were used as places for the Christians to hide out, and they would light fires in here, and that blackening was actually from the fires that they lit inside to keep warm. Also, which we'll see shortly, when we go into the second courtyard, that's where the Coptic Christians actually converted part of the temple into a church. So they actually took away some of the most of actually of the Osiris statues in the second part. So that's the window there, window of appearance we're going past now. So that's where Pharaoh would have a walk up to it, and he would go and stand in that window just to wave at his fans, if you like, to say, hi, I'm here. Does anybody else, and he'd look at, keep an eye on proceedings and things, which is really interesting. You've seen that wall. Yes, it's enough to make you blush. The Guardians haven't quite got it right about what it was actually meant for either, which is quite funny. But again, you can see the beautiful hieroglyphics here and how different they are. There is a well halfway within the temple as well. But I do love the fact that, the pylons are pretty complete in this temple, which I think is absolutely incredible. So now we're going to start making our way up shortly to the next part of the temple. Do you love the little bees and things that are everywhere? I just think they're amazing. And you've got his children at his feet there as well. Look at that. There's the princes with the side knot, or princesses with the side knot on the side, which I think is really quite something else. Oh, and the enemies at his feet. Can you see that at the bottom? All with their hands tied behind their backs. It's quite sinister, really. Has anybody got any questions they'd like to ask before we get on to the next part? I just think these statues are quite incredible. I mean, if they hadn't have been left alone, my guide tried to move me on, but I made sure I had a good look. I love that, Bridget. Yeah, they don't really like talking about it. Oh, here we go. Look. Oh, hold on. Are we going to be able to go? Yes, there we go. If you look really closely, if you zoom in on the bottom of that picture, you can see them there. They look a bit odd, to be perfectly honest, but you can just about see them. How many generations use this space? I'm struck having so less of use. They did, and you're going back to the beginning of time pretty much. Oh, there we go. I did put it on there for you. This is the... Oh, hold on. I've moved on. Let's go back one. Let's go forward a little bit. Oh, no. Oh. Here we go. Let me just do that again. I'll see if I can stop it when I need to stop it. There we go. So that is that particular wall that I was talking about. You can make of that as you will, but you can see he's holding one in his hand there, and they're counting them up to see how many they had. Well, Ronnie, the funny thing is, they actually said that they would put them on spikes on the wall. So there's a massive mud brick wall all around the temple to, protect it from the outside, because there would be villages on the outside of the wall, as we know, because we know they found the City of Gold, as they've called it, on the outside of Medinat Habu, which is just literally the other side of the northern wall. And apparently they would have spikes on the wall, and that's where they would put them, I suppose, as a deterrent, So, yeah, as I said, Melissa, it was used quite extensively during ancient times, from the very beginning all the way through. So this was a very, very old site. So it's got thousands of years of history, this particular temple. But the one that survived is the one during the Ramses and the Hatshepsut times, which I think is quite incredible. Now, as you can see, if you're looking at your screen over on the left side of your screen, there's a massive bit of the colonnade completely missing. And this is where the church was put. So during Coptic Christian time, well, there's still Coptic Christians in Egypt today, but during this time, this is where they made a church, and this is where they would come and worship. Okay, so they actually took the Osiris statues, which you can see should have been against the walls there. You can see, looking at it, you can see where the statues used to be, but are no longer, due to the fact that this was actually made into a religious site for a different reason. And here we have some of my most favourite colours. This part of the temple actually is my favourite because the colours here are just incredible. They are so vivid and vibrant, and really gives you a taste of what it would have been like back in ancient times as well, because they really have done an amazing job doing this. So the reliefs we will see in this area depict various rituals connected with the fertility god Amun-Min. And on the rear wall of the porta of the colonnade is a procession of the king's numerous sons and daughters. Okay, so you've got an awful lot of rituals going on with the gods and goddesses here. And the one thing I love about this is the colours and the types of dresses. You can see the females goddesses actually they are incredible. They've got this crisscross weaving on. They've got almost like a quilted type of thing going on. It's just, and most of this is probably beadwork as well, which I think is absolutely insanely incredible. We were the people who paid tradesmen. Yes, they were. There was a workers' village on the west bank of Luxor, or Thebes, called Deir al-Medina, and in Deir al-Medina this was where the artisans were. So these people were skilled people. Okay, they were skilled. You could not use slaves, as we get a lot these days. You couldn't have slaves do the level. I mean, look at that. No slave would do such an incredible job, even if his life did depend on it, or her life depended on it. It would only be somebody that was highly skilled professionals that would be able to do these things. It is stunning. It's so beautiful. And it's just, you would have somebody that would stencil out the hieroglyphics. You'd have another one that was just responsible for making eyes. You'd have another one that was doing for outline of figures. You'd have another one who would just do the painting of the red. You'd have another one do the painting of the blue or the black, or you'd have specialist artisans that did a job for everything. And it's quite funny because in Egypt today, even today, we have a person that is responsible for whatever job. So you don't just have a plumber that does everything. You have about 5 different plumbers that do different parts of the plumbing. Okay, so you have the one that fits the pipes, the one that seals the pipes, you have the one that digs the pipes. you just have lots of people. Even when it comes to decorating your house, you have the guy that puts the plaster on, you have the guy that sands the walls down, you have the guy that then primes the walls, and then you have the guy that does the finishing touches. So there is a person for every single job, and it seems to be something that resonates way back in history as well. And I do love that about Egypt, you know, in ancient times and in modern Egypt, because nobody goes without work, because there's a job for everybody. Okay. So now we're going into what was known as the hypostyle hall. Now, you'll notice that most of the hypostyle hall is missing, unfortunately. The reason it is missing is because during, later on, when the temple fell into disuse, and it was just literally falling by the wayside, and the desert was starting to claim it back, there was a monastery that was built out to the south of the temple, about a mile into the desert. And they actually used the stone blocks of the hypostyle hall here to build the monastery. So if you go into the monastery today, which you can still visit, you will get to see hieroglyphics within the walls. So there's hieroglyphics from Medinat Habu in here. Now, here we have all sorts of things going on. So we have at the rear of the temple, we have what is left of the hypostyle hall and a number of side rooms. Most of this area has been destroyed with the blocks taken from the monastery, as I said. Many of the side rooms depict the gods, and interesting, some depictions of Ramses II as a god. So he deified Ramses II. On the south side, which is the one that, hold on, yep, this... Hold on, I'm going to get myself all confused now because my son's gone like back and forwards. The other side. So on the south side, there are some locked rooms, and you have to get special permission to go into these particular rooms. And I'll explain those in a moment. This bit here, actually, this bit at the back, which we're going towards, is actually the shrine dedicated to the Theban triad. Now, the Theban triad were were made up of the god Amun, the goddess Mut, and the god Khonsu. Khonsu was their son, and they have rooms at the back, or shrines at the back of the temple. Now, during the festivities, they would come over the River Nile from Karnak Temple. Their statues, this is not the actual real gods themselves. Well, I suppose they did think of them as the real gods themselves. They would come over from the east bank over to the west bank, and then they would go on this tour visiting the temples, and they would come in and they would stay in their little shrines or sanctuaries at the time. Also, there was a false door at the back here as well, and the false door was to let in the spirit of the king, so he might come into his monument when he fancied, without actually having to physically come into the temple. So, as I said, which is now this side, we're looking at, there are some locked rooms there. You have to get a special permission to go in, because they actually depict Ramses with the god Thoth weighing gold before the god Amun-Ra. So it's quite impressive. It's quite amazing, actually. And there's a lot going on these little shrines. And on the north side, we can see depictions of Ra-Hokati with the king and baboons worshipping the solar bark, and the king offering before the Ka and Ba of Ra. I imagine the artisans were cared for quite well. Yes, they were. That's on the West Bank. Fascinating. Yeah, it is amazing. And also they had their own tombs as well, which are just, it's fascinating. And I do think that the artisan tombs and the officials are actually more interesting than the pharaohs, to be honest, because it shows you local life and what life was really like back in those days. It gives you an insight into what was happening. It really does. I mean, this temple is just stunning, and there's so much to it. And my son was like, "Mom, it's so hot here," because it's like a little sun trap going into here. It really is. It's really, really hot. Really hot. Now, if any of you ever get the opportunity to go to Saqqara in Cairo, I always say go and spend the day just going around the little tombs in Saqqara, because they are absolutely amazing. Now, here's some pretty impressive colour here. So you can see just in here, right? So this is a little room. Doesn't really mean it wasn't really meant for anything, but what they've done is they've decorated it, and they've made it, I mean, the colours that were in here, it must have been really, really vibrant. And really, really vibrant. And this would have been possibly just a storage area, just storage for the temple. But it is completely covered in hieroglyphics and coloured in the most beautiful colours. I mean, it's just amazing. As I said, Terry, a little bit earlier. So the columns, yes, they were dismantled because they were reused elsewhere. They were reused in the monastery, which is over about a mile to the south of the temple, to build the Coptic monastery that's out there today. So it is a shame that we don't have, the back end, if you like, of the temple still in one piece, because can you imagine how impressive? I think if it had still been standing, I think it would have rivaled Karnak Temple for sure, with the hypostyle hall, definitely. So this is the building I was telling you about that had the offerings, the treasury in, or the depictions of the treasury. That's just behind us there. And it's just, to think that these would have been coloured as well, is quite impressive. I mean, it's beautiful. God Ptah there, you can see the locked door. As I said, you have to get special permission to go into there, unfortunately. I have tried over the years when it's been open to try and sneak in and get some photos, but unfortunately I get ushered back out again for being naughty. Again, it's just beautiful, isn't it? Look at the colours. Absolutely stunning. So you've got the god Amun-Min. You know it's Amun-Min because his phallus you can see his phallus quite clearly. And it's like a god of fertility, god of creation. He's a creator god, so hence why he was quite important. If you had a time machine, I don't think we have to guess what time you travel to. Am I that transparent? There's a couple of times. It would be the 18th and 19th dynasty I would definitely want to travel to, definitely, over anywhere else, because there's like two distinct gaps in that history timeline that I would really, I'm just fascinated to find out about, because it's just, why wouldn't you? What happened with Hatshepsut? What happened to Tauseret? Why were these women, erased from history? What happened at that time? Why are they not important? Now, as we go around, let's talk a little bit about the harem conspiracy. So, as I said, during Ramses III's time, the temple, he had a bit of it was a temple boom, shall we say. So he started building a lot of temples. Now, this wasn't a cheap thing to do. And he was taking some of the stone from other temples. So some of this temple, the stone was actually repurposed from the Ram Museum, which is, to the north of this temple. Okay, so he was a bit naughty and he did steal some stone from somewhere else, but he would have had to have quarried a lot of stuff as well if he hadn't have repurposed from other temples. Now, during his time, there was an assassination attempt on his life. And it is written, the reason we know about this is because we do have the harem conspiracy papyrus. And this you will find in Turin, in Italy. And I had the pleasure of being able to see this particular papyrus when I went. And I did get a translation of the whole papyrus as well, because it was just incredible. So when I first heard this story, and I was told that it was a conspiracy with one of his lesser wives, this is the story that you will be fed, okay? So it said that one of Ramses III's underwives or lesser wives decided that she wanted to take power for her son. She wanted her son to be pharaoh. So there was a conspiracy to kill off Ramses III so that she could seize power for her son. Now, firstly, there's a bit of a problem with this, because in the papyruses that we've seen to do with the harem conspiracy, it was only Ramses III that had the assassination attempt. There was his son, which I think was Tutmosis IV, that was actually who was going to become pharaoh after Ramses III. So if she wanted for her son, who was a lesser son, to become pharaoh, she would have had to have got rid of him as well. But there was no plans to get rid of him, or didn't seem to be any plans. Secondly, there was about 23 people involved or named in this particular conspiracy. And it wasn't just, harem wives and, eunuchs, if you like. It was priests. It was generals of the army. It was servants. It was everybody, of people from all walks of life were actually involved in this particular conspiracy. Now, my whole feeling about this, this is the outside of the wall, by the way, before I carry on. So this is the outside of the wall, and this is the one place where you will find the victory stealers or the victory walls depicting the victory against the Sea people and the Libyan people. Sorry, not Lebanese, the Libyan people. So this is the only depiction on the walls that has that on it. Okay, so just do have a look as we go around. It's a little bit difficult to see because the lighting is a little bit, we could have done with going early in the morning, really. You'd be able to see it properly then. But I mean, it is beautiful and it is very well done. So going back to the harem conspiracy. So my theory on all of this is the country was going into economic ruin because Ramses had decided he wanted to leave a legacy and he wanted to leave his mark on history. So instead of just, doing what most of the other pharaohs did, which was to usurp other people's temples and tombs, he decided to do big, massive building projects all over Thebes, all over Upper Egypt especially, and down to Aswan. I think this probably had a massive effect on the state of the finances of the country, and it was possibly that government officials got together and said, we cannot sustain this for too much longer. So instead of just, overthrowing him, because you can't really overthrow a god, because that's what he basically was, the first assassination attempt was a metaphysical one, if you like. So they were trying spells against Pharaoh, and it was about trying to, get him to stop doing what he was doing or get him to die that way, or go into decline. That didn't work, unfortunately. So the first assassination attempt didn't work. So they went into the second assassination attempt, which was they got him up to the harem in Medinat Habu, which is that building that we came through at the beginning, and he had an attempt on his life. Now, the reason we know that it would have worked is because his mummy, which is now in the Civilization Museum in Cairo, actually has a cut from ear to ear, and it almost goes down to almost taking his head off. So we know that he was unalived that way. So that would have killed him, unfortunately. So because of this, the harem conspiracy went to court, and it was his son that was presiding over the proceedings, if you like. This wall is fascinating because you can see lots of animals on this wall, and I just love this wall. So there's fish on there, there's bulls, there's donkeys even on this wall. It's an incredible wall, this one. Again, we've got lots of smiting going on, a lot of smiting. The pharaohs did love a bit of smiting. If you had to guess, why do you think those women were erased from history? That is a very good question. It's a question I don't wholly know the answer to. I think the problem, when you look at ancient Egypt especially the golden ages of Egyptian history, actually, the women were in charge. So there was very strong women from the 17th, 16th, 17th dynasty all the way through to the end, the beginning of the 20th dynasty. And it was after then that things started to go a little bit pear-shaped for the women, or they were taken away, or erased. Powerful and peaceful, maybe. Yeah, I think so. I think because of it being the golden ages of history within those countries. I mean, it's like, in the Middle Ages, what happened to women in Europe, all over the world. We've always been persecuted in one way or another for being strong women. Even today, it still happens today, It was. Why? I don't know. I have my own theories on that, but I think we'll save that for a different day because I might go off on a rampage. So we are walking out now on the south side of the temple. So if we were to turn around the other way, I wish you would occasionally, we do have the palace. As I said, the palace was where he would reside during the day when he was over on the West Bank. So he could go and stay there for a few days or a month or so, and he would do that. And as I said, it was very easy for him to go to the window of appearance because he'd just go through the palace to the window of appearance. He wouldn't even have to go outside. Yes, but you've got to remember, Hatshepsut was doing the trade missions, and her stepson, Tutmosis III, was the war machine. So when they said that Hatshepsut and Tutmosis III weren't friends, I don't think that's wholly true, because if he wanted to get rid of her, he could have got rid of her anyway. He had the power of the army behind him, so I do believe that that's not true. But again, we'll do a tour on that one. So this is the back end of the temple. Now, this bit I want to talk to you about because this is very interesting. Very interesting, this bit. So I didn't know this when I was in Egypt. I wish I had done, because I would have done a bit more research. Now, I'm sure you have all heard about the cachette of royal mummies that was found, where they found all the really important pharaohs of history that were in a tomb in the Theban mountains, and they'd been taken out of their tombs and put for safekeeping in this other tomb so they wouldn't get destroyed. Okay, so this is the house. So this, where we're going now, and unfortunately we don't have a lot on it because my son didn't think this was important, but anyway, never mind. The house of the official located within the Medinat complex is identified as the House of Boot Hammon. Okay, and he was a royal scribe and overseer of the treasuries during the 20th and 21st dynasties. Now, it is said that during his reign, now again, this could be to do with the fact that Ramses had, bankrupted the country, and he had to try and find money from somewhere. So he was actually ordered to go into the tombs, and evidence has been found now, to go into the tombs and basically take out of the tombs, treasures that he could find. Okay, and that was quite important. Take those treasures out and repurpose them. But he didn't want to, he was scared that once they'd opened the tombs, that the mummies of the kings and queens would be destroyed. So it is said that he moved them to the cachette of the royal mummies that we know today. And this is supposed to be his house, or parts of his building of his house within Medinat Habu temple. And we know that it's his because we do have his cartouche on a couple of the pillars that you can see there. You can also see that massive mud brick wall outside, and that mud brick wall has been there for thousands and thousands of years. And then we'll finish the tour with this beautiful photo of the harem, which is you know, again, all that's stopping me from going into that flipping building is that little wooden door to the right of the picture there. And it's tiny. There's a little staircase to go up. I could probably even jump over a wall to get to it if I wanted to, and to get into the harem. But unfortunately, it has eluded me even to this day. Why? I don't know. It's a shame, and it's heartbreaking. But there you go. So guys, that is Medinat Habu and the harem conspiracy, or my version of the harem conspiracy. Anyway, has anybody got any questions they'd like to ask me before we bring this amazing tour to an end this evening? You can ask me anything you like, within reason, obviously. I shall wait with bated breath. Now, while I'm waiting for any questions to come in, just so you know, I do have a tour. So my tours on Egypt will be every Wednesday going forward, apart from when I'm on holiday, which will be the 14th to the 21st of March. But I will be bringing live tours to you from my destination there. I probably will get through that door, but possibly arrested at the same time. Trust me, I've tried to bribe so many people, it's not even funny at this point. I was even willing to sell a kidney at one point to get through that door, but it still didn't do me any good. You're very welcome. So next week we will be doing the Giza Plateau. I will be bringing the wonderful surf of the Giza Plateau to you, complete possibly with camel. Obviously not in real time. We'll be revisiting that, but it'll be under the same. Hopefully you've liked the format of this tour this evening. It's a bit different, I know. So I'm hoping that you've enjoyed it. You're very welcome. There's so many more planned, Terry. So if you go to my Buy Me a Coffee page, I think I've got the link here. Yeah, if you go to my Buy Me a Coffee page, which is just here, it does list all those particular tours for you. Let me see if I can get the other one for you as well. So I do have another one as well. This is this one. So this is my other page. Now, this page here, Terry, is for my non-Egypt related ones. So this is for my UK tours and other country tours, because I do tend to go to other places as well. So every time I go anywhere, I will be taking you with me. So this year, I will be going to Meyerhofen on the week of the 14th of March, and I will be doing a tour from up the top of the mountains in Meyerhofen. For some reason, the signal up there is absolutely amazing, and there's a bar at the top, so I can get a glühwein when I get to the top, which is quite amazing. And we'll be taking a wander round the streets of Meyerhofen as well. It's a beautiful historic town, so I'll be taking you there with me. So that is the second link I've put there. Don't forget that these tours are fully tip supported, so you can go to Buy Me a Coffee and you can leave some gratitude there. It just helps, you know, with the time that I have to spend on putting the tours together, and also to be able to create new content and be able to go to new places and be able to take you with me. It's all going to be there. So I do have I will be putting another channel up for you to follow, as well as the Blue Lotus one where you are tonight. So hopefully you will skip across to those channels as well. I will be putting everything on Discover live stream list. Yes. Oh, Polly. Yes, it's all on there. So the live stream is on there, so it's on the calendar. So all you have to do is look for my name. So I've put with Lesley on everything, so you'll know it's me that's doing it. So it's either Egypt or the UK tours. So for the UK tours, I've got Walking Around Penkridge. It's a lovely historic town where I now live, so you can actually come with me there. And then we're going to do Shugborough Hall, which is a historic estate. I might not be able to take you into Shugborough, but I can take you around the outside in the gardens, which is beautiful. So we're going to check out Shugborough Hall, and then, as I said, the week after that we will be in Meyerhofen in Austria. So we'll be going and seeing the wonderful delights of Austria. that week as well. Oh, I'm glad you've enjoyed it. Well, it's been my absolute pleasure, everybody. Thank you so much for coming along this evening. It's been my pleasure, and I'm so glad I managed to get this working, because I've been like about this technology. Ugh. New laptop, new way of doing things. So I'm hoping that you've enjoyed it. I hope that it's gone well for you. I hope that you've enjoyed coming along for this virtual tour with me this evening. I have so much more footage, and I've got more footage coming out of Egypt for you as well. So do join me next week for the Giza Plateau, and then for the cookery school on Friday, where a week on Friday, where I'll be teaching you a new Egyptian dish. You can go to my website, which I shall put here as well, for all the recipes. Hold on, bear with. I love the fact that I can actually do this for you at the same time. This is really cool. So if you go to this website, bluelotusegypt.com, you will be able to go in there, go to the kitchen part of the page, and you've got lots of recipes there, or some of the Egyptian recipes. I put a brand new one up there the other day for shakshuka, so you can have a go at that at home. But next week I'll be making something yummy for you to follow, so hopefully you will join me then as well. So guys, I'm going to say good night for this evening. So thank you so much for coming with me. It's been my absolute pleasure, and I've loved every second of having you all back. So until next time, have a wonderful day, have a wonderful week, have a wonderful weekend, lots of shenanigans. Love to hear about your shenanigans, and I'll see you on the other side. Until then, bye for now. Mwah.